Hello! It's about an hour later from the last video, but you'll be seeing this a couple of days later, just so I can upload something and leave it while I'm off to foreign fields. This is the template, Variadic template thing I've just posted about. So please watch the prior video if you're not sure what I'm talking about here, but this is the function of the sum. So this has got just the return, and then this is the Variadic template that passes the parameter pack through to sum as well. So this is the original version. What I wanted to just explain was what I meant by the compiler unrolling these calls. So we can see roughly that this equates to this function, and this equates to this second function. And there's one copy of each before we talk about the main. Fine, there's one copy. Why is there one copy? Well, we're only adding 1 and 2. If we did 3 and let it recompile, then we get 2 copies of the second sum function. That's the compiler unrolling copies. So if we did 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, and let it compile, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 copies. Why not 9? Well, of course, the 9th and final iteration is the original return. That's what I meant by parameter unrolling of what's going on. Okay, the site that I'm using here, by the way, is Compiler Explorer by Matt Godbolt at godbolt.org. Links will be below. I'll also link the previous blog post and the previous video just so you can meet the two. The interesting thing about this problem is that if we then turn on compiler optimizations, the code all goes away, because what it actually does is it works out the value of these and just returns the value. The compiler is very clever for this. That's very important when we think about using these down the line for logging or for summations and things like that. If the compiler can, it will optimize them down to something. Obviously, the logging thing is completely different. Let's pull that code in. So let's remove that code and let's bring in the outputter. Again, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, then you need to pop over to the prior function. So let's go to the string. John, Paul. So we'll just do the 2 Beatles at first. So this time, take the optimizations off. This time we get the output strings and we get the call for one addition, exactly like with sum, except we're moving text around. Okay, and if we add another one, we get a whole other copy, this copy and this copy of the outputter code. It's not sort of working this through, it's repeating the code. Debug can be very, very slow with these kind of things. Then when we optimize, it actually keeps in now the same function. This and this are the same function. It cannot optimize them away because this isn't a numeric. If it was, it can't optimize them rather because it's not a numeric operation inside the function. Summation was. It worked out that, oh, you're just adding these together. The compiler's been very clever. It will do that with most basic arithmetic. It will do it with some bitwise operations, but it can't do it with text. It has to physically transport the text. What does this mean for my logging functions? Well, it means that there are quite a lot of them, even in release. So for reality's sake, I would macro define them out. I wouldn't have them at all. There'd just be nothing there. But it's important to remember these things expand out into iterative code, that there is more being run as you do more and more parameters into these functions. The other thing to remember, of course, is if we go to numbers with this one, I don't know why I keep saying it. I've got the Control S shuffle, which is why down here you'll see me saving the file. But you'll see again here that it hasn't been able to optimize them away. There is 1, 2, 3 being used. They are physically 3 separate pieces. It has optimized the call to sort of only make the call once. There isn't a whole separate function that it's doing things and moving things around. It's set things up and it's inline them, but it's still not the fastest. And that's what I'm currently looking at with the logging stuff. I want it to be the fastest. Whether this means I include template specialization to start making reuse of certain types, that's something I need to look at. But this is how compiler unrolling works at the moment for this. It actually inlines the code and reuses stuff and puts these in as constants, exactly the same way as it did with John, Paul and George. Bye bye.